message for you to hear. It's because anger, sometimes we don't understand. Anger kills the purposes of God. And you see the image of anger and its trail of destruction are seen throughout history. You see it in places, even in places that are supposed to be safe havens, the home and religious places of worship. You see anger there. Now, I was thinking, where do children in particular go when the home is no longer a safe haven? Where do they go? There are broken homes and people with damaged emotions and self-esteem. And this is mostly caused by relentless anger. From the various forms of media today, we have seen these images of anger brought to our front door, and we can no longer ignore the devastating effects of anger anymore. The outbursts of anger, the unrestrained anger that is directed, directed to bring maximum effect to hurt somebody and destroy somebody is so evident. We see it in media. And you think it is just adults and teenagers, but today it's young children. I was so grieved and shocked, a couple weeks ago, to see on the news about how a young boy shot dead his mother. He was only 9. He shot his mother dead. And later on, they were investigating and talked with the siblings. And they found that he was so upset because his mother had asked him to do chores. And for that reason, shot her. What is going on with our society today? What is going on? Is the anger that we see just mere angry emotions, or is there something behind that is much greater? But then I want to ask this question. If anger seems so wrong, Scripture tells us that God gets angry. So what is this with anger? So I'm going to build on this message, okay, with some background, because it is important to see the context of each message so that when you receive a revelation, we will not misuse that revelation for situation that it was not intended for. You see, many believers, when they receive revelation, they run with it. And they appropriate that message thinking it's appropriate, but they have misused it for situation where the principle of that revelation did not cover. And then we end up in heresies. So it's important for us to build on some background, okay, about anger. And also for many other things, so that when we have revelation, we appropriate and do not misuse it. The first visible manifestation of anger, okay, it came, this is a point A. The first visible something's wrong with me pronouncing this morning. I guess my throat is like so dry. The first visible manifestation of anger that led to murder was when Cain killed Abel. We talked about it last week, so I'm not going to go through that because it was just an offering issue. Most of us would think we are good people. Don't we think we are good people? Because we would think we'll never go out and kill anybody. But the fact is, even as believers, we are doing it every day. I'll elaborate on it as we go. Then others think that they don't have an issue with anger because they think everything is in control. Well, outwardly. But the fact is, many of us, even though outwardly we think we're in control, but inwardly there's a volcano. inside of us ready to explode, because that anger has been suppressed and never submitted to God because we think we are fine. B, some definition of anger. Anger here, I took it from the internet. It's a strong emotion of grievance and displeasure. It's a strong feeling of being annoyed. Some of the synonyms of anger is resentment and antagonism. Just from those words, those descriptions, we know that those things go on inside of us, correct? Sometimes we are resentful. Sometimes we don't like certain things and we show strong displeasure. We do this in the workplace, we do it at home, in school, in colleges, eating place, and in the shops and at home. I remember a preacher. It has stuck in my mind because it has, brought such transformation in my life. I remember a preacher, he once shared how annoyed he was with the cafeteria lady slapping his potatoes in a way he doesn't like. He complained daily about this lady and he began to demean her just because she didn't slap the potato in the way that he likes. Day after day, his annoyance mounted until one day, as he was praying, he saw a vision. He saw a vision, and there was this pipe, water pipe, okay? And at the end, he only saw a few drips of water coming out. And so he asked the Lord, Lord, what is this? Why isn't there more water coming out from this tap? And the Lord began to remind him about how annoyed he was at this cafeteria lady slapping the potatoes, mashed potatoes. He didn't like the way she did it. And then the Lord showed him that this is like a blockage to the flow of blessing that God had for him. So he repented. He repented before God and showed a change of heart. So from that day that he repented, he took step. He took the step to say thank you to this lady for serving him every day at the cafeteria. What a change. And after he had done that, he said, the mashed potato tastes even better. I want to bring this scenario. When you are so angry, even if you have the best food served to you, do you think you could enjoy that food? No. You're so angry. You're so angry that even the food, your favorite, you can't even enjoy. Point C. Anger is a faculty created by God. That's why this is going to answer some of the questions. Why does anger seem so wrong when God himself demonstrates anger? Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. So, anger is this faculty created by God, but anger in itself is sinless. Anger in itself is sinless because God put that faculty inside of us so that we will be angry when there is unrighteousness. But we cannot misuse that anger. As with all other faculties, when we misuse something that is of God, God condemns. All right? Anger is allowed, but not sinning in anger. Anger also has a time limit. You see, he says, do not let the sun go down with your wrath. Submit and yield the anger to God before you sleep. You definitely sleep better. Can you try going to sleep when you're so angry? That's why even when we are angry, we need to submit it to God before sundown. Submit it to God and ask God to help you. Sometimes we argue so much, that we have the right to be angry in a situation. But seriously, I want to ask this question. Seriously, how confident are we to say we indeed have the righteousness of God to become so angry? It could be possible that your anger came out from your own flesh and soul because you were displeased or you don't like something. Scripture points out that even our righteousness is like filthy rags. Do we think we are so mature and discerning enough to say that we have absolute righteous anger toward a certain thing or a certain person, that we can react with such anger? I want you to think about that. Do you or we have such righteous anger, righteousness of God, that we can display such anger towards anything or anyone? We must always submit and yield that anger to God and not take things into our own hands. God will show us what to do. Point D, anger is a choice we make. We say love is not a feeling, but it's a choice we make. And in many fruit of the character of God, anger is a choice we have to make. Okay, we saw last week in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Sin lies at the door, and its desire for you, but you should rule over it. So you see, there is that implication of making a choice. When a strong feeling or emotion begins to arise inside of you, you have that choice to stop the desire of that sin of anger to rule over you. You have that choice. Instead of making that choice to rule over us, the desire of anger to rule over us, we rule over us. We make that choice to rule over it. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 9. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 9, it says, "Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools." I want to repeat that. Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. This is not a pretty thing, to have anger resting in your bosom. Man, have you noticed this? Okay, all of us have gone through anger. How many of you never went through anger? Never? Oh, Mama? Okay, that's good if you can control. You see, the more we get angry, you realize that the more we get angry, the more we spew out, words and reasoning. We call them reasoning, but actually don't make sense. Because the emotion of anger has overtaken our thinking and our speech. It has gone faster. It has run faster than our thinking and our speech. And so we become like fools in the things we say. I mean, I want to be real. Gordon and I have some arguments, really heated ones before. And my children, they're observing us. And after everything has settled, and we're okay, and the kids would tell us what we said. And sometimes I think, well, that is that is hilarious. What were we thinking, you know? Because we were like fools, you know? So it's like we argue and argue and we're not getting anywhere. I think my boys were probably trying very hard not to laugh in that situation. But when they explained to us, you know, what was going on, I thought, man, fools, being fools. And then have you noticed that when we get angry, we get louder? And our loudness is so loud that people around us cannot hear what we are saying or understand us at all. So now we are twice a fool. E. Anger, a tool used by the enemy. Okay, this is where I'm building up to. Okay, anger is a tool that the enemy will use. The verse in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22, just quickly say, be angry and do not sin, do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Actually, this verse refers to the provocation of to anger by the devil. So Paul is teaching us here that we must not yield or give place to the devil's provocation and sin in anger. Okay? That is precisely what Ephesians is telling us. Now, the first point here about the tool, Satan wants to use anger to bring the angry person to murder and bring lots of destruction. First point, use to bring the angry person to murder and bring destruction. And you know, John 10:10, it says that, you know, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So if he can find somebody he can use as a tool, he would use it. He used Cain to kill Abel. So it is very wise to be cautious about spending time with people who provokes you to anger. Because that person may not realize that the enemy is using him as a tool to provoke you into sin and doing more damage. Okay? Now you will probably ask me, but if all those people are living with you, what do you do? You just have to ask God to make you strong. And if you have a tendency to provoke other people to anger, stop. Because if you don't stop, you are going to become a tool that the enemy is going to use over and over again to hurt people, to damage people. I know certain believers who are so deceived, thinking they have that spiritual right to provoke someone to anger. Their reasoning is, if they can provoke you to that point of anger, then this evil spirit in you would be exposed, and then they can pray deliverance over you. That's deception. Jesus never did it that way. He just commanded the spirits to come out. We are told in Scripture that we are to provoke people to good works.